May 22nd, 2025 Governing Board meeting for the MCAG and all the other agencies that we represent. I will ask, let's see if I'll ask Director Nagy to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pat. Next, item 1B, we'll move on to roll call. Joy?
Director Kale?
Here.
Director Reed?
Present.
Director Nagy?
Here.
Director Samra?
Here.
Director Lewis? Director Serrato? Director Pacheco? Director Pedroso? Director McDaniel?
Present.
Director Pereira? Vice Chair Silvera?
Present.
Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 2 is the approval of the agenda.
I don't have any changes.
Chair will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the agenda as published.
Second.
So we have a motion by Director Nagy and a second by Director Reed. Does the public like to make any comment on this item? Not seeing anyone, we'll bring it back.
D doesn't have anything to say?
No, he doesn't. Don't worry, he'll be up here in a minute. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 3, this is public comment. The public comment is available in advance of or during the meeting. You can see the instructions for public comment on page 2 of the agenda packet. Is there any members of the public who wish to address this body? Not seeing one, we'll close the public comment section and we will move on to reports and presentations. And I have the privilege of recognizing of Citizens Oversight Committee members, one of them which is with us today. So I will read from this because I don't have a microphone to stand up and talk. So on behalf of the governing board and the MCAG staff, I'd like to present these clocks to both Dee Tatum and Jim Cunningham as a token of our appreciation for their service on the Measure V Citizens Oversight Committee for the last 8 years. In addition to being integral to getting Measure V passed in 2016, both Dee and Jim were founding members of the Measure V Citizens Oversight Committee when they were appointed in May of 2017. They are the last 2 individuals left among the first slate of members appointed to the COC in 2017 and have now served the maximum number of terms allowed by the measure. So we would ask Dee to come on up here and we'll take a picture and I'll hand you this clock.
Don't we all get to have a picture with them?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. What, do you guys want to stand up here? Is that, oh no, up there is better. Right here. Let me move so that I.
Then I'm going to turn the microphone over to Dee for a few words.
I'm just trying to find out why a retired person needs a clock.
I want you to see we took the tapestry off the wall.
Can we get a whole board picture?
Everybody else to come up here. As you start
I think Paul was photobombers.
Been teaching all day.
Really, I'm doing this on behalf of Jim Cunningham, who many of you know was the real architect who really helped push this through. So even though he said he was going to be here, he later told me that he had a conflict. So had I known, I'd have been the first one with a conflict.
I was like, I'm not gonna be like sitting. Yeah, no, thanks. No,
Miss having him on the board. It's like
I know.
comic relief and
Kate-
serious at the same time.
Katie was over there, and I'm like, go get in the picture, and she's like, no. And I'm like, I think we need a board picture. She's like, I knew you were gonna do it.
Oh, that one, okay.
As Dee departs the room, I do want to say to Jim and Dee both, we appreciate your dedication to the Measure V cause and your willingness to be trailblazers when it comes to the committee, keeping it focused on the mission, setting expectations and precedents for your fellow committee members and the jurisdiction. So thank you, Dee.
Thanks, Dee.
All right, moving right along, we have the Caltrans District 10 report. Our favorite report of the meeting.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be going over some key projects and the past action items, and then I'll be open to some question answers. And so on our Merced 140 Planada interchange, the single roundabout project design is complete, and we are waiting for CTC allocation in June meeting. So it's moving forward. Next, please. Thank you. Oh, I have a remote here now. Yeah. And next, please. Okay, the two projects, we are updating the project initiation document PIDs. They are on hold right now. All PIDs statewide are hold. And once we get the new funding on July 1st, we'll start again. So this is the project where last time few of us were discussing why some bridges were closed. So this is the project. It's Merced Seismic Restoration Project. It has 5 locations, and I'll go over each location one by one. The first location is on State Route 59. It's over Bear Creek Bridge. And right now the work is 27% done. The expected completion is by end of August. So you'll see some lane closure. The work involves carbon fiber reinforcement and removal of sidewalk and barriers. So they're working on curb gutters and installing guardrail. Next, please. Thank you. Location 2 is on State Route 140 at Los Banos Creek. And this work is nearly done. So, next, please. Thank you. Location 3 is on State Route 140 at the San Joaquin River Bridge. And this work is also nearly done. And we will close it, complete this area by the middle of next month. Thank you. And location 4 is on State Route 152 on San Joaquin Bridge River. This work is 55% done. Completion date is end of June, and as you notice that's where you have single lane control on the westbound direction.
Anand, can I stop you right there? Because I think you probably have the other one that's on State Route 152 coming up. And I just got to tell you, I've never seen a project that has taken longer than this project has. They've been working on it and I get that, we do have winter and stuff, but they've been working on this thing for approximately 2 years that they've been working on it. And just as recently here in the past few weeks, it was kind of a piece of farm equipment or something that went through there, got stuck, and an accident happened. I will tell you, if Caltrans is doing things to try to improve their reputation in the public, this one right here sets you guys back 10 steps. It's like everybody out there in that Dos Palos and Los Banos area that makes the trek over here to Merced that uses State Route 152, and more so recently, it's really, really giving you guys a black eye, if you will, on just how long, I get it, people don't quite understand, but at the end of the day, what it looks like is you took out the old sides and you're putting up new sides. And then it goes weeks sometimes where there's no work being done on them. So just wanted to pass that along. That's what I'm hearing from my constituents.
Okay. So this one is on the San Joaquin River Bridge, so on 152. This work is done 55% complete, and team is working to finish it by end of June. Up next, please. Thank you. And this is the other one you were talking about. This work is 64% done, and same completion date of end of June. And on the deck, we are doing carbon fiber reinforcement, concrete barrier railing, and concrete overlay. Next, please. Thank you. This is the project I updated last time. This is where we requested to extend the delivery of this pavement project on 152 through Los Banos. And this is where the headquarters, we were unable to find variance of funds to move it out. So we have to deliver by June of next year. So team is working. Now we are constrained with that deadline. So we are looking into what we can do. So next slide, please. So we have, we'll be looking, the team is looking into sidewalks, what they can do. And bike lane has been removed between Badger Flat and High Street that I reported last time. And the number of parcel, which is our critical path right now, is what they're looking at. So team, we have to deliver by June of next year. So we do a contract for delivery with the CTC. And so because the funding is in 2026, we have to show we are delivering in 2026. If we run into any risk, any problem, then we have an option of asking for allocation extension, which we can ask depending on what time. So right now we are looking at 12 months. So this is one of the projects which will likely fail the contract for delivery that we sign, but we will get 12 months extension to deliver it. So that's what we are looking for. Thank you. Next slide, please. This is the financial contribution only for Mercer College to Badger Flat multi-use path. And this is where we send out the invite to have a meeting on May 29th while we are working with the cooperative agreement. Headquarters, they have some questions. We are addressing those. But we are moving forward with this. There's a risk there, but we are moving forward. 59 and Jared Avenue intersection improvement. That's where the last parcel where we are taking away a septic system from one property owner, and we are trying to connect with the city sewer system. Next slide, please. So we got the bids for that. It's $160,000 to connect to the sewer system and $70,000 for the city connection fees. So, which will require us to go back to CTC and ask for more funds. So we are working on that. So RTL will be end of this year. Now we are into action items from the one is on Highway 99 East Broadway fence at Redwater where a truck went through. So the investigation is complete. Team is proposing a curb warning sign facing northbound traffic, which will warn drivers of upcoming curb. The next is another curve on 152 east of Turner Island Road. Here, investigation is complete, and the team is proposing delineators as you approach the curve. And the third one is pedestrian crosswalks at 140-33. And this is where we already have an EA, a project authorization, and once we move into the project initiation document phase, team will look and add that scope of, they'll address the 3rd Avenue intersection and improve the crosswalk. So action item for pothole on northbound lane, eastbound 152 on State Route 59 flyover. That's where just transition from concrete to asphalt. So the team assessed it, and on April 18th, they addressed it, they cold patched it. They're waiting for the grinder to return from District 3. Once we receive it, we will do a cold plane and full repair of the area. We expect to receive it in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So one option, there were two asks on look into off-system bridges. There were 2 bridges where the traffic is blocked. So we looked into, there are no grants available at this time for off-system bridges. We have a reservation fund for our bridges. The one previous project, what you showed, we discussed, that's one of the example. So right now there are no grants. And the action item for right turn, green arrow at westbound 140 and V Street, that's the one where the team for 1M480, the 59 Anchor project, is looking into it. So this is a little bit off. It's on the south side, but they will look into it. They'll help our traffic ops to come up with a solution, and maybe they can address it something separate. It might be just an electrical issue instead of replacing a whole signal out there. Maybe add something, and so that's what they're looking into. This is pending, where you have a soft spot northbound 59 north of Edendale Creek, which is about, I believe, 2 miles north of the creek, and it's a little bit dip there. So this is pending. Maintenance is looking into it. Some information items from planning is funding opportunity from U.S. Department of Transportation on safe streets and roads for all. And so deadline is June of 26th. Thank you. And next is funds for zero emission, medium, heavy duty and off-road for charging and hydrogen refueling infrastructure. I heard talk about last time. Deadline is July of 25. That's it.
All right. Okay, thank you, sir. Are there any questions? Paul?
Yeah, well, excuse me. Mr. Moore, thank you for a good report. I got a question. Caltrans on their landscaping, do they set any priorities to use recycled water as opposed to treated water? Or is there any preference to?
They always look for recycled water. That's our first choice. Your second option was clean water, you mean?
No, because the reason I was asking is in Livingston through the 99 corridor, there's quite a bit of landscaping, and currently they use treated water for irrigation purposes. We do have nearby water available that's recycled water, and wondering if Caltrans even sets a priority for those to try to conserve.
Definitely, they'll be eager. I mean, who do I need to reach out?
Can you reach out to city manager in Livingston, please?
Okay.
Yeah, we were trying to find ways to conserve treated water, and we have all this recycled waters available, and right now it's just being discharged. So
yeah, we want to. We love putting signs on highways saying using recycled water. So
yeah, one time a few years ago, we tried to do that, but it didn't work out. Maybe we can revisit that.
Was it because it was too far, or?
I'm not sure what it was now. You know, it was just, I know that we reached out, and it wasn't. But then it's been some time ago. But now the state has this new push to conserve water and all that. So if you can reach out, have somebody or you or whoever reach out to the city of Livingston, would be appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Commissioner Nagy, Commissioner Director Nagy.
Thank you. This isn't a question. I just want to remind you that, and everyone here, that we're having the ribbon cutting for our roundabout on June 3rd, so. Well,
Thank you for reminding that.
Yep.
I'll be there.
Perfect. Yeah.
When you're there, Mr. Cooper, can you teach Western Night people how to use a roundabout? Because it seems like they're not quite as good as we are, you know. So
I think it's a learning curve for everyone. First time I used it.
All right. Not seeing any other questions. Stacy, you had a comment.
I just wanted to make two observations, I guess. Well, I guess one is let's talk. I'd be interested to know what the costs would be to maintain the sidewalk component of the pavement anchor project from Badger to I Street in Los Banos, if we can have that conversation. And then also, I was not included on the bike path meeting invite that went out today. I think it was just Elizabeth and the supervisor. So I'll send a follow-up, but if you could add myself and then the County Public Works Director, Nathan Bray, I would appreciate it.
That meeting was originally set for June 23rd, and they moved it to May 29th. That just came out this morning.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Right.
Thank you very much. And are you going to introduce your companion?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I know him. But you go ahead.
So I have acting Deputy District Director, Planning, Local Assistant, and Environmental Support here, Caleb Brock. He is just joined from District 6. He has experience in District 6 and as well as headquarters. So you want to introduce yourself?
And while Caleb's making his way up, I'll say that maybe the way to, he's the new Marlin. So Marlin was very active here, so he's been gone a while, but just to help connect what type of a relationship we have with you, that helps.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my name is Caleb Brock, filling in as Acting Deputy District Director of Planning and Local Programs. The permanent advertisement for the position went out this week, so Grace, Director Grace, will be backfilling that position permanently. But yeah, as said, I was in District 6 in planning and attended a lot of board meetings for the planning deputy down there, and I have experience in headquarters, and just looking forward to working more closely this is my 6th day on the job. I've been to TCTC twice. I was at StanCog yesterday, and I'm here today. So great to, I recognize several of you from the Policy Commission conference. So good to be here, and looking forward to working more closely with the staff and the board moving forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Welcome. Okay, we're moving on. Item number 5, these are informational items. These items are included for information purposes. No presentations will be made by staff unless board members have any questions. So, are there any questions on the informational items by the board? Not seeing any. We're going to move right along to item number 6. This is a consent calendar. All consent calendar items listed below may be acted upon with one vote unless specifically removed for separate consideration by a member of the board, a member of staff, or a member of the public. Would anybody from the board or the public like to remove an item from the consent calendar? Not seeing anyone. We will bring it back to the board for consideration.
motion to approve consent.
So we have a motion by Director Samra and a second by Director Nagy. Does a member of the public have any comments on this item? Not seeing one. Bring it back up. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Moving along, Merced County Association of Governments action items. Action items will be considered separately by the board. Public comment will be available during each item. Item 7A, approve the Measure V West Side Regional Project programming change to shift $1.390627 million from the Lorraine Street Bridge Replacement Project to the East Blossom Street Area Project in the City of Dos Palos. The accompanying 2023 Measure V Implementation Plan, Amendment 1, and the associated regional projects funding agreement. And we'll turn it over to Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request that was initiated by the City of Dos Palos and has gone through the Measure V West Side Regional Projects Committee with an affirmative vote to bring to the full board. And that is to move money essentially between two program projects on the west side in the Measure Regional Program that are both under the City of Dos Palos. The city did complete the Lorraine Street Bridge project. We just had that ribbon cutting not that long ago, and it came in under budget, and there's a request to move the $1,390,627 from that project so we can close it out and move it into the East Blossom Street area project, which is also an existing project in the West Side program. And as I understand, working with the city manager, that moving of funds would complete the gap funding that they need to be able to go to construction this summer, or go out to bid and then out to construction this summer. So as I mentioned, the West Side Regional Projects Committee met, reviewed the request, and is making a recommendation to the board to authorize that transfer of funds. So the action today is to approve 3 component parts, all of which are related, making that shift of funds of that 1,390,627 from Lorraine Street project to the East Blossom project, to then also approve the associated implementation plan amendment that would show that shift, and then to approve the regional project funding agreements that we will need for the City of Dos Palos that have already been executed by the Dos Palos City Council that will allow Dos Palos to begin to charge against that account.
All right. Thank you for that report, Stacy. Are there any questions or comments by the board? Are there any questions or comments from members of the public? Not seeing any. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion by Director Reed. I got a second by Director Nagy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 8, this is a discussion item. These items will be presented separately in order to allow board members to ask questions or provide staff direction. Item 8A, this is the draft scenarios for the 2026 Sustainable Community Strategy, and we will go to Meg.
Great.
And before Meg gets started, I see that Director Lewis is here, so we'll let the record reflect that Director Lewis has now joined us.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So as part of the 2026 Regional Transportation Plan Sustainable Community Strategy update, we are developing 3 land use and transportation scenarios. Today we're going to present these scenarios to you for feedback before we move forward with analyzing them. And before I get into the scenarios, I'll just give a little bit of background. So this is a refresher from the RTP SCS 101 presentation that Stacy provided you a few months ago. So the Sustainable Community Strategy, it's a component of the Regional Transportation Plan, which we're required to update every 4 years. It's a state requirement for MPOs to develop an SES that integrates land use and transportation planning to demonstrate how the region will reduce greenhouse gas emissions from passenger vehicles. The greenhouse gas reduction targets are set by the California Air Resources Board, or CARB. Our 2035 target is a 14% reduction relative to a 2005 base year. And then CARB approves each region's SCS, which is a requirement for SB1 funding eligibility. Next slide. And a little bit of why we use scenario planning as part of the SCS process. Scenarios are used to test and explore different approaches to land use and transportation to see how we could reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve mobility. We plan to evaluate 3 different scenarios. There will be one preferred scenario that all of you will select later this year. And the preferred scenario should be ambitious and achievable for the region, but it also must meet our GHG reduction target. Next slide. So the SCS is a little bit of a technical exercise. I won't get into a ton of detail on this slide, but we have a few different tools that we use to analyze the scenarios. So we have our travel demand model, which we use pretty regularly. We have a land use model, and then we're also going to do some off-model calculations for certain things that our travel model can't measure. So these are some of the inputs to the scenarios. Our growth forecast, which we adopted back in December, includes projections for population, housing, and jobs, land use. So we will kind of determine where we might think areas would see new growth, so new housing, commercial development, the densities, intensities of development throughout the county, and then the land use mix, so where residential, commercial, and industrial uses would be spread across the region. Regarding transportation infrastructure, our regional transportation plan includes a list of projects that we anticipate will be the same for each scenario. And then lastly, some behavioral assumptions. So mobility choices, depending on the land use, people are more likely to take the bus or walk or use a bicycle. Some technological changes, like the adoption of electric vehicles, and then also transportation demand management programs such as carpool and vanpool. So those are all kind of factors that are included in the scenarios. So we have 3 draft scenarios that we're presenting with you to you today for feedback. We presented 4 scenarios to the RTP roundtable at the April 25th meeting, and based on their feedback, we combined 2 scenarios into one, which is scenario number 2, multimodal infill and conservation. So I'll jump into the first scenario. This is the baseline historical trend scenario. It continues current development patterns and transportation investments based on existing plans, trends, and policies without any significant shifts. So this is not a very exciting scenario, but staff is recommending that we include this as a scenario because it'll be a useful benchmark to measure the other scenarios against. So just some of the characteristics are no increased emphasis on infill, mixed use. It's probably going to include a higher reliance on single occupancy vehicles. The land use is guided by current general plans and zoning, limited mode choice between travel behavior, and lower accessibility to transit, biking, and walking infrastructure. And next slide. So scenario 2 was originally kind of like a transportation-oriented development scenario and then a land conservation scenario. We discussed it. They're not mutually exclusive, so we decided to combine them into one scenario. So this one blends transit-oriented, higher density development with land conservation to create more compact and connected communities, reduces car dependency, supports economic vitality, and preserves natural resources and agricultural land. The characteristics that would feed into this scenario include higher density transit-oriented development near major rail stations, including the future high-speed rail, ACE San Joaquin Station in downtown Merced, as well as the ACE stations in Atwater and Livingston. Infill and mixed-use development in existing urban areas and along key transit corridors. It would prioritize development that conserves natural resources and agricultural land, and the land uses would further support investments in bike, pedestrian, and public transit infrastructure to reduce vehicle miles traveled. And our third and final proposed scenario is an affordable housing-centered growth scenario. So this assumes affordable housing is a key driver in sustainable regional planning. It seeks to advance equity, increase housing supply, and improve access to jobs and transit by encouraging affordable housing development in downtowns and near key employment centers. And the characteristics include increased multifamily housing development, just compared to historical trends, incentives to promote affordable housing near jobs and transit corridors, downtowns, and this would also include UC Merced, and then unincorporated communities with transit, for example, Planada. Development is probably going to be less concentrated around the future high-speed rail and ACE train stations compared to scenario 2, and the focus is really just on reducing commute distances for low-income households by locating housing near employment and transit. Next slide. So this is a comparison of the scenario concepts side by side. Just the key assumptions that will kind of feed into them. And we also have a set of performance indicators that once the scenarios are all modeled, we'll report out on, and those include things like greenhouse gas emissions, vehicle miles traveled, the acres of important farmland consumed, criteria air pollutants. So this is just kind of the draft concepts as of right now, but once they're modeled, then we'll have more specific results to report to stakeholders in the public. And last slide. This is just an overview of the timeline. So we want your input now on the scenarios before we begin modeling them this summer. We plan to incorporate any feedback that we receive from you today and bring that to the RTP roundtable at its next meeting on June 20th. At that meeting, they'll be taking action to give us the green light to go ahead and model these scenarios. And it's important that we kind of stick to that timeline of next month so that we can do public engagement in the fall. So in the fall, we'll be going out to the community, conducting workshops to receive input on the performance of each scenario. And then in the winter, the governing board will select a preferred scenario, which will become our sustainable community strategy, which will be incorporated into the draft RTP SCS, which will go out for public review next March. So for discussion purposes, we might want to toggle back to the last slide. So this is just for discussion. If you have any input on what you do or don't want to see as part of the scenarios, that would be helpful information. Yeah, and I can answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Are there any questions by any members of the board? While they're contemplating their questions, Meg, I had a question for you. So you have these models and you're looking at historical data and then, trying to figure out, have a crystal ball. So for scenarios where something that wasn't even contemplated, like we didn't, maybe it was like a pipe dream way down the road, how does that affect it? So for example, years ago, we talked about an industrial park out on the west side, near the Interstate 5 area somewhere out, I don't know whether there's a couple locations, the 152 I-5 kind of corridor or the 165 and I-5 corridor. And if none of that is reflected now, if it's not reflected now, how often do we revisit this? Does it get updated so that if something were to kick off down the road and I wouldn't want that to penalize us in because in any one of these kind of type of commercial type projects, you're going to be probably looking for grants to help with infrastructure, roads, all those things. So you wouldn't want it to hurt us because we didn't contemplate it. So maybe if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we update the SCS every 4 years.
Okay.
CARB will be updating its target for 2035 next year, and we do anticipate some reform to SB 375. So we don't know exactly what that will look like for the next SCS. But for this current SCS, unless there is like a specific plan or something that the board has adopted, we might be able to incorporate that. Otherwise, we would try to include it in the next SCS.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stacy.
And I'm sorry, did you, I don't know, and I was addressing something else. Did we talk about how the RTP SES and the relationship with general plans and the planning efforts at the local level that were kind of, that they should be not in tandem, but
Thank you.
that can kind of get to that question too.
Yeah, so right now we're coordinating with all the local jurisdictions just to make sure that we have all the latest shape files, GIS files for your general plans and any specific plans so that we can use that in our land use model.
Yeah, got you. Director McDaniel.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So you're saying we're looking for a baseline scenario. Is that what you're asking for now? Because I just want to say I like number 2 because of the agricultural land preservation, but I feel like ag land preservation would be mentioned in all of them, whether we did nothing, because we're currently doing that. Number 2, it lists it in affordable housing and centered growth areas would definitely be a preservation for ag land. I don't know why isn't mentioned at all of them, but yet it's highlighted in 2.
Yeah, so the first point is we are planning to model 3 scenarios, so we don't have to select one today. Okay. Just we're trying to get input on the key components that go into each scenario. But that's a good question because like scenario 2, for example, is focused on agricultural land preservation. That is a component of all of the scenarios, but it's just kind of the degree to what intensity it's turned up when we model it in the land use model for number 2. And for scenario number 2, there is increased development around the train stations and major transit corridors, but that doesn't mean that the other communities won't grow. We're just kind of gonna do some tweaking between, but it will be a component of all of them.
If you think of it as like I think you said like a knob or if you all of the components are really in all the scenarios because they're in our community writ large. So think of it as what's the recipe? So there's, recipe 2 is going to turn A and B up high. Recipe 3 may be turning C and D up high, but they all exist. It's just the varying degrees of where the emphasis is. And we did actually just have a meeting with the Farm Bureau to go through all of this as well, and heard, we're trying to get as many perspectives as possible. And I just want to reiterate what Meg said is, we're starting this process, and if there isn't any, don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to have it all figured out right now. This is step one. What we're trying not to do is get to a point where we're presenting a preferred scenario, or we're showing these scenarios, and then we're having a conversation like, oh, well, you should have thought of this, or you should have included that. So think of this as, are there component parts here that are missing? Do you feel like, you might say, okay, my priorities are transit and ag land. Well, okay, you can see where one of those does that. One is really hyper-focused on the affordable housing and connecting jobs and housing. So it's really just that gut reaction of, are we missing anything here? Because you will all be our TPSDS experts by the time we adopt this next summer.
All right, just for housekeeping's sake, let the record reflect that at 3:27, Director Pedroso joined us via Zoom, and at 3:31, Director Serrato joined us here in the room. Director Serrato, you had a question or a comment?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just a couple comments based on, I think, experience. Again, no, I'm not pretending to have any expertise, academic expertise in this area, but I think the from my experience, both homeowners and developers seem to have a very strong preference for number one. I think that's kind of why there's a big preference on the part of our citizens for single-family homes, low-density growth. There's a lot of aversion on their part to density in a lot of ways. But if you take that to its logical end and keep carrying it out, then we're going to have a big problem, because then you got sprawl, you have ag land, torn up, you have big needs for roads, and on and on. I think a model where, and we've seen this, I think, and we've seen it somewhat fail in our general plan, is a kind of a smaller village, walkable village concept. Doesn't really work because you can't scale the economics of it enough. Like a shopping center can't work if it's too small nowadays. A little corner market that's walkable, I think in our area, it's kind of an outdated model. It just doesn't work. But I think what could work and could be really successful is a model where you have density, transit surrounding, more regional shopping centers or regional hubs. For example, in the city of Merced, either downtown or the mall or the Lowe's Walmart area, if we kind of focused transit and denser affordable housing in those areas, kind of a bigger sort of region, I don't know the right term for it, like a regional village or that more, then I think that could work in a lot of ways. But the smaller, and again, I think we struggled that in our general plan, kind of zoning certain areas for commercial, kind of neighborhood commercial, thinking that kind of smaller corner lots would work, and a lot of those have just sat vacant for a long time. So just a couple thoughts. So,
Director Nagy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just kind of from another angle here on number 3. Now, I assume that some of these projects are going to need federal funding. Well, one thing we learned last week is they don't want to see that word equity. So I don't know what you would just take it out, or if you would change it with something else, but that's something that every person that we met with, as far as putting grants in, don't put DEI in there because it's not going to get you the grant funding.
I think that's more of a political question, and Meg's not prepared to answer that today, but I'm sure she appreciates your notation.
Well, I will just say to that point, so the SES and the RTP are one document for the purposes of what we produce, but they're two documents that go different places, and so we have to strike that balance because the SES is a state required document, and they have different priorities, and the feds, it's the RTP document. So you will see us, maintaining to the mission of MCAG, but making sure that we're cognizant that we're also preparing ourselves to be well received in all audiences. How's that for an answer? Okay.
All right. I don't see any other members of the board, so I will open this up. Is there any members of the public that would like to comment on this item? Not see anyone. Meg, thank you. All right, we're moving right along here to item 8B, Measure V Implementation Plan Update Presentation, and we will turn it over to Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to first admit out front that I am overdue. I had intended to give 6-month progress reports on our 2023 implementation plan, but I did not do so in December. So this is closer to a 1 year. The last update was in June of 24. So we'll be able to compare year over year. All right, next slide, please. The 3 things I want to cover are the audit, the recent audit and the Citizens Oversight Committee review of the last year of work, the progress for our expenditures in our West and East programs, and then kind of what the next steps for the 2025 implementation plan update in terms of what staff is kind of leaning towards. So the 3 main things that came up in the review of the financials and the performance of the measure over the last year continues. One is a continued issue, the accumulation of unspent funds. There's just too much money sitting at the jurisdictional and at the regional levels that has already been that's ready to be spent and is just sitting there and accumulating year after year. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Also, continued issue, not everywhere, but with several recipients of having late quarterly expenditure reporting, and a pretty robust conversation about, is it time to begin withholding local funding payments if you're delinquent on your quarterly expenditure reporting. And then so just needing, and I know this is really, I think for NAV, and I think there's some follow-up work we'll do on making sure that there's that there is consistency on how interest is being tracked as those funds are sitting in the variety of accounts. Okay. So we can skip that because I'm going to go straight to it. We're going to go right in. Okay, so this is a lot. So this is East Side. So basically what it is, if you look at the table top to bottom, let's not worry so much about the dark blue, but look at the 2 horizontal gray lines. We're first going to talk about projects that have funds available to them today. All of this is about what's programmed on the East Side in the regional projects. You have projects that are available and have already executed funding agreements, which means you can start charging money, or you've already started charging or start getting reimbursed. The bottom gray line are projects that have access to funding but still haven't executed funding agreements, which means there's no way any progress can be made until those agreements are in place. So then if you go from left to right, of course, it's the project lead jurisdiction, then the project name, and then it is the amount of money that is basically available to the project today. It is a rollover. You might have had your first funding in 2017, or you might just have that money as of this year, but that is an accumulation of the funds that have been programmed to your project today. The next column B is what has been received in terms of reimbursement requests and reimbursed through us through December of 2024. And then the following column is the balance. So if you had, I'll look at Bellevue, 2.3 million. You have, the city of Atwater has been reimbursed 178,000. So you have 2.1 million still sitting in the bank, ready to be spent. And then column C is if you have more money coming for that project. Now this might happen in those early legacy projects where the entire project was funded, where it was just, now we do it where your projects are being funded by a phase. But some early projects just got the whole chunk, and it was for all phases through construction. So sometimes that's the case. Now, though, moving forward, we're only doing it 1 phase at a time to really try to address some of these issues. And then so at the far right column, that is your total funds that have been programmed to that project. That would be reflected in the programming document. So that's the total number. So you can see here that there's quite a bit of money. If you go all the way down on column A, it's $40 million that have been programmed from day one through this fiscal year, and $4 million has been spent. Now that's what $4 million has been reimbursed. You've been reimbursed $4 million. And then the balance means there's $36 million sitting in the account. And I do want to say that specifically a big money item here is AME. And that project is nearing the point of being able to go out to bid hopefully soon. But that has been held up with some federal regulatory fun. So I just want to make that distinction. Okay, so that's the east side, and then I have one more slide for the east side that I can show. Oh, so that means that if I look at it from last year when I did this update to this year, program-wide on the west side, we have expended, east side, thank you. We've expended almost $615,000 with $36 million sitting in the bank. So that was the 1 year-over-year expenditure. Okay, and if we could go to the next slide, just want to mention here are the closed out projects. Now, there is a difference, and we'll see it a lot be an issue on the west side where projects can be done, the work could have been done, but if your team hasn't reimbursed us, they're not reflected on a closeout. This means we've got the last invoice, we've closed it out, and we're done. And so you can see what those are there on east side. So if I look at the bottom, it says progress since the 2024 update. So that is just a summary that when I gave this report last year, there was $24.5 million programmed total. 10 had been expended, and it left it. We were sitting on a balance of 14.5. Today, we have $40 million that has been programmed. We've spent a total of $10 million to date, which means now our new balance is $29 million. So I guess the simplest way is from last year to this year, we've added $15.7 million of programmed projects, or that money is available now. $15.7 million is new money that was added into the availability of expenditure, if that makes sense. That became available, 15 million more, and we only spent 614,000, which means that our accumulation of wealth on the east side has increased by $15 million in a year. And I just want to make a distinction. That's not money being generated from the sales tax. That's money that has been sitting in the bank that was programmed to a project that we needed to get to this fiscal year that now was available to spend, if that makes sense.
Is it the bank or in the treasury?
Where's the money, Nav?
Come to the mic, please.
Some is at the county and some is in the bank. Money market account. Okay. So the story here is 26% of the available funds have been expended. So there's 75% of the money available to the projects that are programmed has not been spent. Let's go to the west side, if you could. So, I forgot to mention. Go back to the east side chart. The little red flags might be a little aggressive, but the red flags show projects where the column B expenditure column has not changed in 12 months. So since last year's report, the 6 projects that have flags have not invoiced or executed funding agreements. So there's been no change in status, but there has been money available. And we're working with those jurisdictions. That'll be part of the recommendation that's coming up. Okay, so now please, if we could go to west side. So the same is true. But I put a couple asterisks on this side. You'll see the red flags, but I'll say, let's just say for Augustine, we may think, well, wait, the roundabout was done. I put the asterisks on the projects that I know have had work or are done, but that we just haven't been invoiced for it yet. So Lorraine Street Bridge is done. That we have all the invoices in, but we haven't closed it out because we need the action that happened today to do that. And then the 33-140 roundabout is pretty much done, but we're waiting for the invoices there. But we just haven't received one in the last year. And then, of course, the other three, we haven't had any change in the funds expended in the last year. Hunt and Palm, both are done, as I understand it, but we need, I talked to the county staff yesterday about getting those invoices in. And then we have the three projects that are funded but don't have funding agreements. And Director Lewis, we have a meeting with the city team next week to make some, and that it should be, I'm hoping that this is the right one because I thought I changed that. Okay. We had a little snafu with my presentation. It was my fault. Okay, can we go to the next slide? Oh, good. It is. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, great. So this is the same table. If you look at it, again, on the progress since last year, the amount of funding that is available to the West Side projects went from 22.8 to 30 million. So that was a growth of $7 million additional. Last year we'd expended 10.4. Now we are up to 12.3. So that's nearly 2 million that was spent, which means the West Side balance grew of fund sitting by a little more than $5 million, and 41% of the funds have been expended of those that are programmed and available to date. And then the right column is just because I wanted to make sure we do have two projects on the west side that don't have any current funding, but are programmed for funding in the outer years. So I just didn't want to lose them. So they're up there more of like a placeholder that they're there. And then you can see the closed out projects on the west side that we have to date. So that's a lot of numbers. It's a lot of math that I had to do. But the underlying is I wanted to show what the citizens oversight and the audits were seeing, that there's just a lot of money there. And we're supposed to be doing an implementation plan update, which is a good segue to my next slide. So the 2023 implementation plan program through 27-28. We have, according to the rules, we need to do an implementation plan in 2025. Typically, we have done call for projects. If we can go to the next slide. However, because what I talked to the TRB about, and I'm starting to have these conversations individually, and we will with every jurisdiction, is that even though we have this where we need to do an update, and we're going to add those 2 years of projections and those 2 years of revenue to go at the end of the programming document, we don't have to program that money. We have three options. We can do what we've always done, which is a call for projects. So that's basically putting it out, saying, here's how much new money we think we're going to have. Submit your requests for funding. We could instead not do that and say, okay, let's just work within the existing program of projects. So only the projects that are currently programmed right now, and basically meet with the jurisdictions and say, what do you need to make progress to get these projects done, and get those requests and see what we have. Or we can do no additional programming, let that funding accumulate, and instead for the update, just update things like schedules, some of the actions the board has taken, like we just today on transferring of money between projects, just clean it up, but don't actually program anything new. I don't need a decision right now, and I don't think it's on as an action. It is not. I am open to any feedback you have as to what you've seen, but I also want to mention something that we're going to have to grapple with soon, and I would recommend it be in this implementation plan update, is particularly, it would be on an east side item, is to add State Route 99 as a line item in our program, as a matching fund account or something to that effect, so that we can show and demonstrate that we have a local commitment to help getting those projects done. Again, doesn't have to be addressed today. And then if I could, I think my last slide is what I'm going to summarize as my recommendation. So what I'd like to do in the team is to meet with each jurisdiction and have a very, very real conversation with maybe some direction that this board might give me today, to figure out what the heck do we need to do to get these projects moving. and kind of maybe take a really discerning look at realistically, is there a need to add a new project? I feel pretty strongly already that unless it's really a dire need where there's a loss of funding, if we don't have what have it might be, that adding new projects is not going to help us and our staff writ large to be able to deliver what we already have programmed. But having that really difficult conversation and being really honest with our, with our jurisdictions, and then coming back to the board in July with hopefully a recommendation that we can build with buy-in from all the jurisdiction staff. And then if that recommendation does not involve additional new projects, that we could re-examine whether or not we need one in a year from now. We don't have to wait 2 years. But so that's kind of how I see moving forward at this point, but I would really love any kind of feedback from the board.
Perfect. All right. Let's open it up to the board for questions, comments, concerns. Anyone? I guess I'll go ahead and I know typically the chair waits, but since I didn't see anybody jump up and raise their hand. One of the things that I guess I struggle with is when we passed Measure V, the whole idea behind it is that we're going to be able to show people that we're actually getting things done. And I totally understand. And I mean, you take AME out of the east side, it really changes that picture. That's kind of the outlier. And that is a big project that takes lots of funding. And for all the reasons that we know, it got held up with EPA. And so we can't plan for those things. But, as every year clicks by, we're getting closer to that 30-year mark. And 30, we're not going to wait till 30 if we go back out for a re-up of this. And I think that we really need to be conscious of the fact that we need to be delivering projects that people can see, so that when, I don't know if I'll still be in elected office when it's time to go back out for this, but to help be able to set up the next round of elected officials to be able to go out there with a straight face and to be able to legitimately ask the voters to continue on with this tax measure and be able to show them, hey, these are the things that we were able to accomplish with it. So I think I'm tending to agree with you, Stacy, on that. Maybe there's nothing that says that we have to call for projects every 2 years. It just says we have to update the implementation plan, and maybe we do take a year off and try to focus on how do we get some of these projects off the books, right? And I get it, it's challenging, but I will tell you, and I'm not trying to pick on my East Side friends, but you look at a community like Dos Palace, who probably has, if not the smallest staff of any one of the jurisdictions, they're able to get stuff done. And one of the things that's troubling for me is when I look and you see there's projects with funding, but they haven't even bothered to execute the funding agreement. And maybe there's a legitimate reason why. But I could see, I'm just going to pick on Livingston, for example. Winton Parkway Rehab. Well, they have $253,000 worth of funding, but they also have the bulk of the money coming in an outer year funding, and so maybe that's kind of the reason why. But then when I look at their transit center, they've been allocated 1.9. It's been ready to spend, and yet they don't even have a funding agreement on it. Listen, and I'll even tell all my friends on the west side when we get to if we can flip to the west side projects list. And Ms. Lewis, I know Los Banos is on there, but we don't even have funding agreements. And I know that those smaller dollar amounts that we agreed to in the last cycle were really, I think they were kind of to initiate project study documents, right? And we haven't even done that, and you have money sitting out there. And so when it comes to, I'm always going to be an advocate for Los Banos and Dos Palace and my district when it comes to the West Side regional projects. But at the same time, if other jurisdictions, the county included, other municipalities on the west side are sitting there saying, well, look at all this money tied up out there and it's not being spent, but yet I got a project that's ready to be spent on, that gets harder and harder to not agree with them. And so I just hope everybody kind of takes that into consideration and understanding, even on the east side, there's some bigger projects on there that it's going to take multiple years of funding to get there. Those ones I'm okay with. It's just some of the smaller projects. So I'm curious to hear any of the comments by my colleagues. I'll go to Director Lewis.
Thank you. Can you scoot up closer. So yes, we have quite a few projects here on the west side that haven't even, I don't know if it's paperwork or contracts or whatever needs to be initiated. And I think most people sitting up here understand that we had some issues over the past 3 years in our city. And with the new council and hopefully new city manager coming forward, we can rectify some of these issues and problems. A lot of this I knew nothing about. And we had one project that was funded. We voted to move forward, and that was the bike walk path from city limits to junior college. And that council voted to give that money back. I voted against it because I knew that it was wrong. So we had some problems within our city. Now we're ready to move forward. But one suggestion that I have is perhaps that staff can make regular, maybe every 6 months visits, rounds to cities and talk about the projects that are not moving forward so that it's transparent to the public as well as the council, because maybe the council doesn't know what's happening behind the scenes. So I'd like to propose that MCAG start making rounds to cities and reporting out just exactly what's going on, not hold any bars back, so that councils can move forward and help these projects get done.
I think those are really great comments, Ms. Lewis, and I think that's what we need. Is we need at some point. And I'm not saying I'm not trying to paint anybody in one box here, but just sometimes we need electeds to make sure that staff understands how important these things are. And so maybe, I know it's adding more work to but a simple presentation that somebody from MCAG can come to say, hey, this is where we're at. Just present the numbers so the councils and boards can sit there and say, hey, why aren't these projects moving along? There's money sitting there, right? And we all know that whatever it costs us today, if we wait another year, it's going to cost us more.
Right. And with that, I know, Stacy, you said that you're going to be meeting with Los Banos staff. I think you need to include some council people in on those meetings so that the message is getting across. We hear the same message that they're hearing. And that, I think that's important for our projects.
Director McDaniel.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said here, except moving forward, I do see money there, and we do have a major East Side project that we need to address, and I'm glad that our DPW director walked in at the same time. Santa Fe Avenue is one that we definitely, between Atwater and Merced, that's gonna, and we all know that's from the impact from 99, the construction for that long, the commuting patterns shifted over to Santa Fe, and we had a perfectly beautiful road there that is now completely, I mean, you have to find your groove lines to drive without rattling out your vehicle. So that's definitely one that I was going to bring next time we had an East Side meeting to bring forward to talk about. Okay, great. Thank you.
You can teach people.
Director Kale?
Yes, I agree with Director Lewis completely. I would appreciate you coming to Atwater and at one of our meetings so that all of our constituents know that we're behind. It will give us a push as well as our staff.
All right. Director Nagy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also agree with everything that's been said. And the slowest thing in the world is not a turtle, it's government. And it takes forever to get a project done, and that's why a lot of these are sitting there with money ready to go, but they're just waiting on whoever, paperwork or contracts or whatever. So, I don't know what the answer is, but I agree with everything that's been said, that we need to do whatever we can to push these projects out to show people that we are making progress on our roads. So I get a message on my home answering machine from this one young lady, and she always says, "Fix the damn roads," and then hangs up. So,
Director Serrato.
I'll tell you one better too. I was walking through Merced High one day, or I was at Merced High. We're cooking, volunteering for something, and then a bunch of kids looked at me. They go, "Hey, Mayor, fix the roads!" Out of nowhere. But no, it's in the city, it's a top issue, and I think everybody who voted, to the point that was made earlier, everybody who voted for this in 2016 seeing what's happened after 8-9 years, they're, and all this money that hasn't been spent, I think and all the progress that hasn't been made, both our PCI scores probably in all jurisdictions continue to decline. It's not good. I think a huge part of it is that there's a significant amount budgeted to the regional projects. Regional projects, by definition, involve multiple jurisdictions. By definition, can be challenging. And some of the projects we picked, AME most notably, the Merced projects as well, are hard. They involve new roads. They're expensive. They involve, our 59 project involves coordinating with Caltrans. We're on schedule, and we've had community meetings, and there's a whole schedule laid out. But once we start, it's a 4 or 5 year process. So these are big, difficult projects. That's another thing as well. To what extent, I know on the east side you have the Merced Loop, which is important, but after that, prioritizing these big kind of new. Are we going to prioritize those big splashy projects? If we're going to do that, it's going to take years. They're going to be expensive. Or are we going to prioritize getting the roads fixed, which I think is what the majority of our people want, is just resurfacing these roads and getting them in a better condition. So, but I think a lot of it's baked in, I think, too, just to the funding formula and how, the jurisdictions who can move quicker, who have annual expenditures, they're more nimbler. Half the money's going there, but then with 27% to the east side regional, 17% to the west side, those projects are going to, inherently move more slowly, especially you're involving multiple jurisdictions. Oftentimes you're involving the state as well. So, and we've selected some doozies, for no question about it. So.
All right. Any other comments? Does the public have any comments on this item? Not seeing one. Stacy?
You all took an item off of my executive director's report to offer the Measure V Roadshow. I used to do 2 stops a year at your councils pre-COVID, and it was sometimes I could see the looks on the faces of like, man, not her again. But Pat. So I was just at the Merced City Council on Monday night, so it was going to be an offer. So I hear you loud and clear. We'll get working on that. I'll focus, instead of an MCAG update writ large, we'll focus primarily on the measure, and we'll also include a slide on the performance of the jurisdiction for your local funds as well, because that's not something we've shown, but Nav can probably attest it's pretty significant too in terms of balances that are sitting there. So as long as you are okay with me coming to your council and putting that on the screen, I will do it.
Do it.
All right. You got it.
Let us know when. We'll make sure that you're agendized.
Yes, please.
Perfect.
Just like with the Mayor Serrato put me on as a special presentation, I was done in the first 25 minutes. It was amazing.
Perfect. Okay, so there are no further questions by the board. We're moving on now to the Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County. There are no action items, so item 10 is information items. Discussion of these items will be presented separately in order to allow board members to ask questions or to provide staff direction. And we have the draft operating and capital draft budget fiscal year 25-26, and we will have Nav.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, directors. For your presentation today is the 25-26 draft budget for TJPA. Before I get started, one of the things we'll be bringing to the board next month is the Measure V audits, which will show the balances of each jurisdiction as of 6/30/2024, the local and the regional pot of money. So, next slide, please. Just a snapshot. This is our ridership. As you can see, for 24-25, we're at 500,000 rides as of February. The year before that, we're at 526,000. We're going to surpass that and probably get close to pre-pandemic numbers. We're targeting about 700,000 rides for fiscal year 24-25. You can see 19-20, we had almost 700,000 rides, and then the year before that, 18-19, we had about 898,000 rides. So ridership is increasing, and that's a tribute to the team, Serenity and her team. They do a lot of outreach. We use a lot of funding for free fares in July, August, September. This fiscal year, we also did December. So we're trying to mix it up to get the ridership, get the people back on the buses. Next slide, please. Some accomplishments, as you know, we got a pilot program to test a hydrogen bus in Merced County. We'll probably bring an item next month to the board to purchase a hydrogen trailer, and then the buses probably will be here hopefully in September. Other accomplishments, upgraded all our fare boxes. This board directed us to acquire a property. We also purchased 4 electric buses along with 12 cutaways. And then we also rolled out our new microtransit software on the west side, which actually helped increase our ridership and efficiencies in the rides that we provide for the microtransit. Next slide, please. All right, just a little overview for the 25-26 year flies. We are projected to have a 5% increase in our budget. That's an $872,000 increase. The increase are in part of operation maintenance, contract, fuel, staffing, maintenance equipment, utilities, and insurance. We also prioritizing to be include route efficiencies along with bus stop improvements and transitioning to zero emission, not only our fleet, but also our facilities. Next slide, please. What causes that $872,000 increase? One thing I would like to point out, Director Nagy pointed this out. On page 115, it's not $185, it's $185,000 for increase in utilities. That's because of just charging the buses. It's not cheap. Right now, we have to charge the buses all day long, so we're charging them at peak hours instead of off-peak. So hopefully when we start transitioning, we get our facility upgraded, put the new chargers in, we can start charging them at nighttime. As you can see, operation maintenance, $356,000. That's a set 5-year contract with 2 one-year options. We're in year 6, which is option year 1. That's a 3% increase year over year. Insurance, as we know, all across the board, is getting more expensive. And then our fuel, we're looking at a $50,000 increase on fuel. And then parts, the parts are getting more expensive to maintain these buses. And then as we got more facilities to maintain the structure of those, increased in $15,000. And then also our communication increased in our communications and IT services on our buses. As we got new fare boxes, we're going to need new technologies to help bring real-life data to staff to analyze the system. Does anybody have any questions about the expenditures?
Director Lewis?
Thank you. I guess I'm just curious, on the utility side, the costs for doing utilities, you're charging during the day. That's when the chargers are being charged up by the solar. Why is it costing you so much?
Well, we only have one charger, and we have now we have 9 buses, so we're charging almost constantly. Yeah.
So you're using more than what you're able to generate.
Well, no, because we're charging during peak time, so we're charging during when it's really high cost. So when we do get our infrastructure put in, we can charge them at nighttime when it's off-peak hours, which is a lower cost to charge them. But right now, we're charging them from 5 in the morning when the utilities work gets here, and then when they leave around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. There's always one bus on there charging at all times. And then we also have our facility. So it's a different meter for our charger than a different meter for our facility. And then we also have our admin building that also has also utilities as well.
All right, thank you.
All right, how are we going to pay for all this? So we do, next slide. There you go. We do have some federal funding, $4.6 million of it comes from 5307. And then we have some 5311 money just for the contents of this board. 5307 money is for urbanized area. 5311 is for rural area operations. And then we have some CMAQ money for marketing and promo items. And then we had, last year we used a lot of one-time use funding, American Rescue Plan and CRISA money. This year we don't have any. We just have ARPA money. And then we have state funds. As you can see, the STA funds dropped by $300,000. That's the sales tax on diesel fuel. So we're going to utilize some carryover LTF along with some additional LTF. And then we're going to reduce our LC top money, which we're going to use the remaining money to purchase capital or capital improvements. And then we go into our local fundings fare box. We're probably going to, since we're only doing this year, next year we're only going to do July for fee fares. September and October, August, September, October are going to be regular fares. And then UC Merced route, as our cost goes up, we charge them the difference. So $25,000 increase in cost. And then also, as we heard, Merced College has additional enrollment. The fees that we get is based on enrollment. So we're projected to have a $10,000 surplus. And then interest on the funds, if the rates stay at the rates they are, we're projected to see a $65,000 interest in our account. Any questions on the revenue? Okay, so moving on to capital, we have bus stop installment improvement. The contracts will be coming to a conclusion. So one of the things that we are doing is we have $196,000 that's sitting in the reserve for this project. We are doing a bus stop assessment. So once that's complete, we will go out to bid to basically bring up the bus stops or install new shelters at new stops when that study is completed. We still have money set aside for electric infrastructure of $760,000. And then this one, I'll bring an item back to the board the next month when I do a final draft. This number will be corrected. We replaced the majority of the fare boxes, so this number will change. It'll be around a couple $100,000 that's only in there. Continue on to carry over capital projects, security camera upgrades. We haven't just gotten around to it, to upgrade the security cameras on our buses. The bus display sign replacement, as we phase out our old fleet and get our new fleet, we are waiting until the last of the fleets to be phased out before we do this. We will be bringing an item to the board next month for a contract execution so we can start it in July of next fiscal year. And then as we know, SB 125 funds, we have about $21 million for various projects, electric infrastructure charging to purchase property on the west side, microtransit expansion in the east side, hydrogen filling station, along with a hydrogen bus. Next slide, please. New projects for next year, we're looking to replace 5 clean diesel buses with Measure V funds along with some LTF funds. As we know, federal funds are not, or state funds are not allowing us to purchase clean diesel buses, so we got to get a little creative on this one. And then we're looking at 7 transfer vehicles. These are vehicles that drivers use to transfer out drivers. Right now, the vehicles we have are from 2014, 2015. So we're looking at purchasing some Ford Escapes. They're about $41,000. We're looking to use some LC Top funding and then also use some San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District funds of about $100,000 would pay for these vehicles. And then the current facility that we have, the parking lot, the asphalt is just getting torn up with these heavy buses. And so we need to rehab the parking lot that's in our current facility. We're estimating the cost of being about $250,000. We did a little patch, probably from this end to this end, it would cost about $22,000. So we're looking to do multiple patches throughout the parking lots, around $250,000. And then we're looking to purchase 4 electric microtransit buses. We are using federal funds along with some SB 125 funds, along with some LC Top funds. And then we're also looking to purchase our first hydrogen bus with some SB 125 along with some HVIP vouchers. So that concludes our capital project. Does anybody have any questions?
All right. Are there any questions for Nav? I'm not seeing anyone. This was an informational item for discussion purposes only. We will be looking at this in its final form at a future next meeting. All right. Thank you, Nav. Moving right along, we're moving to the Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority action items. Items will be considered separately by the board. Public comment will be available during each item. Item 11A, authorize the executive director to enter into a contract for the development of a master plan study in the amount of $316,104 for a total of 3 years with SCS Engineers, and we will go to Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to beg your grace a little bit here this afternoon. A quick note, I spent about 4 hours out at our Billy Wright landfill this morning We had a fire out there in our recycling center, so I'm a little hoarse and between the smoke and the dust and the sunshine out there today. This item, before I move into it, just wanted to say that last month the Regional Waste Authority had its 53rd birthday. April 1972, the authority was formed. 18 months later, we opened the Highway 59 landfill. That is not something that we could do today. It takes years, as you're talking about your road projects, trying to design and get those constructed. Changes, large capital changes that we make at the landfills take years. This item that we have before you right now is for a master plan to have an engineering consultant work with us. Dates back to some conversations we had late last year about the structure and organization of the Regional Waste Authority. We had a scope of work that we brought before you. In February, we went out for an RFP. We received 4 proposals from engineering firms. The evaluation committee strongly felt that any one of the 4 had the technical background to perform the work, but at the end of the evaluation, SCS Engineers was a clear leader. Their ability to do all of the work in-house rather than using a sub-consultant for certain portions certainly added to their top ranking. As Director read out, the final price was $316,104. SCS's original proposed price was $390,000. Once we entered negotiation, we were able to talk through some of the items in the scope, and they were very easy to work with as far as bringing that cost down. It is a higher cost than we had thought we were going to look at, but I want to kind of foresight here into the next item we'll have and the draft budget that NAV will be presenting in a few moments. This study is going to be critical for us as we move forward at the Regional Waste Authority as far as our capital projects, our long-term planning. The ability to have this plan in place is going to help us plan for the next 50 years of the authority. So it's critical we get it right the first time. We don't want to have to go back and redo any of this. With that contract price of $316,104, along with our contingency allowance of 10%, the maximum budget for the project is $347,714. We anticipate the majority of the work will be completed in the next 12 to 15 months, but we've allowed for a 3-year term in case there's any carryover or any delays in the project. And with that, I'll entertain any questions.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Moore? Oh, Director Nagy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you said we sent out an RFP, and the RFP must have clearly said this is what the job is and get a proposal. But you said that the SCS can do it all in-house. But no matter which one we went with, wouldn't they have to do it all for that price?
Yeah, the price, by in-house, I meant the other proposers had outside firms assisting them with certain tasks.
Okay.
Which.
But the task would still get
But the task would still be the same.
No.
Yeah.
Because my other question is, what is, on your scoring thing, the next one down was 3 points less. The other 2 were considerably further down, but it's only 3 points, but yet they're half the price, less than half the price. So it would seem that if they're going to do the same job and come up, they got to adhere to the contract.
I'm going to let Nav speak to some of that. He sat in on all of the interviews. He was not a part of the formal evaluation committee, but he had some really good insight. And
good question, Mr. Nagy. We asked the same question. The second highest ranking company, they underbid it just to get our business. And we asked the question, well, why are you bidding 150 when we know that the amount of work is more than what you guys are bidding out? They're like, we want your business. Well, then that's where we start. I go, well, when are you gonna, if the cost gets too much, are you gonna start cutting down the kind of the product, the work? And they kind of we're gonna try to make it work. So after we concluded with the committee, it was like, we don't want to risk a document that's this important, where if they start running into costs that they didn't expect, they're gonna the product that we're gonna get is gonna be jeopardized, and they're gonna put in a, less than subpar product. And one thing I will say about SCS, they actually did a similar study up in Butte County, same challenge that we have, right? Waste that's coming out of county, rates. You look at the rates, everything identical. Almost our scope of work is almost the same as theirs, and they did a phenomenal job out there. So that is why one of the reasons why we felt comfortable going with SCS, and they did bring a dream team. Like they every question we had, I threw a random question, they were able to answer it just like that. So like I said, this is what they specialize in across the country. The one that's the second company, they had like James said, they're trying to rely on their subcontractor to do the majority of the work, but at what part are they going to stop eating the cost and to jeopardize the cost of the work of the product? So that's why we went with SCS. And the last thing is, they got 20 points off the bat because they're the lowest. If you remove the cost, they will be third in place, not second. So that was the other one.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because oftentimes when somebody is that low, they're missing something on their proposal, or they're going to kill you with change orders.
Yes.
So.
And they got 20 points off the board just because they're the lowest
Okay.
bidder. So.
Great answer. Thank you.
Director Nagy, I struggle with this too. I think the problem is the longer you've been around government and you see someone that's so much lower, it isn't like, oh, you're really good at your job. It's like, what are you doing wrong that you're so much lower than everybody else? Like, because you can ask Nav. I called him about this yesterday. I'm like, and then when he explained it and how important this document is, I think it, when we talk about the lowest, most responsible bidder, the lowest, most responsive bidder. In government, too often we think about the lowest bidder and not the responsive and responsible part, because I can tell you firsthand, when we went with the lowest bidder, the complete show that we get to deal with afterwards. Any other questions for Director Moore? All right, not seeing anyone, we'll open up this item for public comment. Not seeing anyone, we'll bring it back to the board. Chair will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I will second it.
I think I got a motion by Director McDaniel and a second by Director Reed. All those in favor signify by, do we have to do roll calls? He's gone? No, he's not here no more. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving right along to item 11B. This is the approval of the deferral of jurisdictional rate increase scheduled for July 1st, 2025. And we'll go again to Director Moore.
Thank you again, and thank you for that previous item. As I mentioned during that item, over the last 6 months, we've been preparing the scope of work and looking at the master plan study. We began looking at, again, all of our financial income and outgo. We realize this master plan study is going to be critical to balancing our various revenue streams, whether it's the jurisdictional rates, the gate rates that get charged for self-haul coming in, or the rates that we're charging for out-of-county waste. Quick statement about the out-of-county waste. When I started not quite 2.5 years ago, the average rate we were charging for out-of-county waste was $18 to $20 a ton. Over the last 2.5 years, we've been gradually ratcheting that rate up based on feedback from your board that we want to see that out-of-county rate approximate or equivalent to our gate rate. So as of the current agreements we have with the out-of-county haulers, those rates average $28 to $30 a ton now. So we've increased it almost by half, with planned increases again every 6 months, with our target date for when the bonds are paid off in 2027. Now, the master plan is going to give us a lot of information to look at how those rates interrelate and how they will affect us. So based on the revenue we currently have, waiting for the master plan to give us a good path forward, the budget that NAV's going to present here in a moment is very conservative. We have not added any new CIP projects. The fleet expenses that we have in there are basically to lengthen the life of service of some of the equipment we already have, some equipment rebuilds, some minor equipment. Again, we are faced with the same utility rate increases, insurance cost increases, things of that nature. I'll let Nav get into all of that. But we felt it was important. We've heard the message from your board, the concern with rising rates, and we put this item before you to give you the opportunity to defer, put these rates on pause for a year, and our budget will be able to withstand that.
Thank you. Questions? Any members of the public have any questions on this item? Not seeing anyone, we'll bring it back to the board. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion by Samra and a second by Kale. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving right along, folks, to item number 12. This is a discussion item. The items will be presented separately in order to allow board members to ask questions or to provide staff direction. This is item 12A, operating capital and fleet draft budget for fiscal year 25-26. Nav.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, directors. So this is a draft budget for regional ways for fiscal year 25-26. Before we dive into the budget, we'll look at our tonnages for the last, I want to say 6 to 7 years. As you can see, James mentioned that our tonnages have been increasing year over year. There was off in 22-23, we saw 722,000 tons. That's attributed to oak fire that happened. And then, as you can see, this year we're estimating the tonnage to be at 671,000 tons, which is higher than last year and any year besides fiscal year 22-23. Next slide. We're projected to bring in about $25.8 million in revenue for fiscal year 24-25. And that we had about $1.2 million in bird flu revenue that was incorporated into this $25 million, but this also includes our organics revenue as well. Does anybody have questions so far about the tonnages or revenues?
Just one more time for me, Nav. What was the calculated revenue from bird flu?
1.2 million.
1.2. Thank you.
And that money will be going to future cell expansion at Highway 59. So some accomplishments. We are 95% done with our Highway 59 infrastructure improvement phase 1. What we're waiting on is our fuel tanks. One of the things that staff has been able to do is, fingers crossed, mitigate Probe 45. If this is cleared by Cal Recycle, we will be able to move forward with the design and permitting for the Valley Fill, which is huge for RWA. We kicked off Billy Wright Phase 3A and the Surface Impoundment CIP, which is estimated to be completed by November of this year. What else do we have? As you guys just took action on an item on the master plan, we know how important it is. We will start the work next month. Along with the countywide battery collection, RWA has collected over 300 pounds of batteries since the inception of the program.
Now, maybe this is a question for James, but I know all batteries or sizes are different, but you say 300 pounds, that doesn't seem like a lot, but can you equate that to approximately how many AA batteries that is, or C?
Tracking it individually, the number I got was just the total. Each box is about 50 pounds, and we've collected 6 boxes already from the various jurisdictions.
Okay.
The way we look at it, I just told you we had a fire out at Billy Wright this morning. Every one of those batteries we collect and that is not in the waste stream is an avoided fire. So, 300 pounds doesn't seem like much. We're only about 4 months into the program. We're going to start doing we've already started some additional outreach at retail establishments. Our diversion manager is going out, setting up a table, sitting and talking to people. At the spring fair, we had a lot of comments about, oh, that's great. I didn't know I could take my batteries to City Hall or to the library and dispose of them. So, it's one of those items that we think there's a demand there. People just don't know what to do. And I think that program is going to continue to grow as it matures.
And I guess then the ask would be is somehow like in a 50-pound box, just like maybe you count like how many batteries are in one of those boxes, and so you could say like, you know, hey, that's 1,000 batteries or 2,000 batteries that didn't make it in the landfill.
We are tracking that number individually. I'll have it for you next month.
Perfect. Thank you.
Also, we started a illegal dumping program with the county.
Why are you dumping illegally?
Huh?
Why are you dumping illegally?
You know, we got to get we got to get Public Works some work to do out there. The commission's in the house, you know. So, but we are working with the county to mitigate or educate the residents about illegal dumping. We will be doing some outreach messaging as well, a joint collaboration with the county on that measure. So landfill revenues were projected to increase by $1.63 million, that's 6.6%. About roughly 90% of the revenues are from our landfill tipping fees, which are gate, along with jurisdictional and out-of-county waste, along with $2.2 million of revenue generated from organic processing, which is a pass-through cost to the jurisdictions on the east side, Atwater, the county, and the city of Merced. And then our expenditures increased by $1.3 million. That's 8.5%. That's 77% is attributed to staff salaries, equipment, professional services, state solid waste, and organic passes through cost, which makes up 77% of the increase for our expenditures. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we're projected to have $26 million of revenues. Of that, $24 million is the tipping fees, $2.2 million of organic pass-through cost. 90%, like I said, is our landfill tipping fees, which is collected at the gate. And then we move on to our operating expenses. Our staff costs increased by 3%, along with supplies and service expense, which includes professional services. That increases, and that comes out to $17 million. Does anybody have any questions about that before I move on?
Any questions? Not seeing you yet.
So what is that? I mean, as you can see, we have more revenues than expenditures. What are we going to do with that money? We do have still a bond payment, which is set to be paid off in the year 2027. $2.5 million for the bond payment. We have, after this payment, we'll have about $4 point some million in change to pay off the bond. Then we have some fixed assets, and the remaining revenues will go into a reserve fund of $6.9 million, which will then the gain or loss would, if we have a shortfall in revenues of $5 million, it would affect that reserve fund account. Next slide. So as James mentioned, we're going to be looking at purchasing one vehicle, which is a service truck. In this year's budget, we had $150,000 for a service truck. We looked, and they're about around $220,000 to $250,000 for a service truck. So we put another $150,000. We carried forward the $150,000 plus another $150,000, $300,000 for a service truck. We have 3 equipments that are going to have a complete overhaul on the transmission and rebuild. The cost of it is half the cost of the equipment. So once they are rebuilt, they should give us anywhere between 5 to 8 years of life on these equipment. How much does a scraper cost? About $1.6, $1.7 million. So that's deferring these costs. And then we're looking at purchasing small machines, attachments, recycling buckets. These are the buckets that have like claws on them, so we can pick up the recyclables, put them on our transfer truck. These all-terrain vehicles, we actually had a theft at our site. We couldn't go through our insurance because the deductible is higher than the actual vehicle. So we're basically replacing those 2 Kubotas. We were looking for a mobile light tower for our highway Billy Wright site. And then we're also looking at tarp machine spoolers, along with a forklift for our, it's Billy Wright, 59. We have $2.3 million in proposed expenditures for our fleets. Any questions on the fleet?
Any questions? Not seeing
none. So one of the things that we changed up this year is, as we mentioned, we have some excess revenue. We're not programming any of that money until we realize those funds. So what we're doing is we have $37 million in our cash account at the county. And we have our general fund pays for our CIP funds cost. And so what happened is the general fund is owed $15 million from our CIP project, but then the general fund owes the CIP fund about $5 million. So the difference of $10 million is still owed to the general fund. And then the remaining encumbered projects, about $26 million, which leaves a balance of $21,000. If we were to pay everything off, we only have $21,000 left at the county for this CIP account. And then if we fast forward, we receive the revenues that we were projected, we're about to transfer about $6.2 million along with $750,000 of interest that brings, along with the $21,000, that brings us the total unencumbered amount for end of fiscal year 2026, about $7 million. Then in the next year's budget in 26-27, if we do have the revenues that we generate, then we'll be programming that money to CIP projects. Next slide. So these are all the active CIP projects. We have the board has authorized $41 million worth of projects. We spent $13 million, which leaves us about $26 million of encumbered projects. Next slide. Just to recap everything, $26 million of revenues, $17 million of expenditures, and then $9 million of paying for debt and capital transfers. Our fleet budget, we have about $2.7 million in our account. We have about $2.3 million of it for purchase. That will leave us $461,000. When we go to our capital improvement, we have about $41 million worth of projects, $13 million that we expended. We have $26 million of encumbered. As I mentioned, if we did all the transfers, it would only leave us $21,000. And then we have projected $6.2 million with projected interest that will give us about $7 million of unencumbered money by the end of next fiscal year. So
pay our debt off early.
Well, I wish we could. There's a question that we could just pay it off, but as a bond, you have to pay it off in increments so the bondholders could get their interest revenues. Yeah. So, any questions?
Are there any questions? Okay. Any members of the public wish to ask questions on this item? Not seeing anyone. Thank you, Nav. That was an informational item. You guys will be voting on that next month. Okay, we're moving right along to Executive Director's Report. Stacy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of things, and Michael's going to queue up. Is there a... We are, Mary Michael will be bringing a recap or a kind of closeout report next month for One Voice, but we did all just return from Washington, D.C., so we thought we would just share a couple of pictures. Michael, you could just go through as I'm talking. Just want to say thank you. It's been, really excellent having all jurisdictions participate in this program the last few years. May see a lot of a particular member of the board coming up in particular who kept us all on our toes. Go ahead, Michael. You can see here White House pictures. We met with Senator Schiff. There in the top left, we're in the White House Executive Office building. Bottom left, Nav's trying to touch the top of the Washington Monument and apparently is a little off. And our meeting with DOT. Go ahead. And this was our entertainment. Our entertainment for the trip. And I just couldn't resist putting all of these facial expressions up on the screen. And I think I was probably the only one that went through the whole tour without falling victim.
Oh, no, you fell victim.
Okay. Well, if you didn't have a picture, it didn't count. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I mean, at some point, I want to know who made those stickers because it never really lost its stickiness.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. So just some fun to say thanks. And we do have our debrief immediately after this meeting and hope that those that participated in the trip can make it. Wanted to also point out a couple of treats you have at your seats. One is the Highway 99 pamphlet. This was produced by TCAG, Tulare County Association of Governments, as part of our Finish the 99 coalition. And we have just made a lot of progress as a region in working with the state to make sure that these critical projects are completed on the 99 corridor. And TCAG did an excellent job of bringing all of our information together and having something to hand out. We're going to be updating this constantly. Quite frankly, our contribution to this happened pretty much in a panic because it was right in the middle of the final week or so before the policy conference. But it just is something that I wanted to make sure you all saw and have. If you want additional copies, we have as many as we need, but just something that we'll be updating periodically and making sure that everyone's getting a copy.
I notice we are the centerfold.
We are the centerfold. It's all who you know. What was I saying? Katie is over here. Okay, so in the centerfold, you will see a pretty dated map that from 2022 that was really just more of an urgent project that I put together several years ago when we were doing the 99 Summit. And that is what I wanted to highlight because it also was part of the reason that we started the Mr. Map program, which is the Merced Regional Multimodal Access Plan. And that has a whole bunch of component parts to the grant, but what I wanted to highlight is the map itself. So if you look on, and this is the kind of the first iteration, but if you look at the kind of east side of the map, you will see this is the first iteration of this really rough image that I had used down here, where we wanted to start having a one-piece conversation or one document that we could have a conversation to show. Here's where high-speed rail is going to be. Here's where the station will be. Here's where ACE is coming. Here are the ACE stations. Here's how Amtrak will be realigned. Here are our 99 projects. Here where our transit stops are. Here's where UC is. Here's where the former Castle Air Airport is. Here's where the inland port will be. Here's how AME serves all of this. You can see how when we talk, we're talking about all these component parts. We really wanted to have a map that just covered it all. So this is a work in progress. It's the first iteration we wanted to make sure we had before the fairs. So our team has been using it at our fair booths to help people understand the investments that are happening. We're taking any feedback, of course. It's really hard to make sure you capture everything, both current and future, in a way that makes sense. But then if you look on the other side of the map, we also wanted to make sure we could capture not just the downtown area specifically for Merced, because there's more there at the detail level on the top right, but we wanted to capture the whole county. So if you look at the bottom map there, it shows as if you're kind of coming from the South Valley and you're coming to the Y essentially of 152 and 99, and you can see our east side corridor, our west side corridor, and how all of that is in relationship to each other. You know, it's easier to talk about commute patterns and all of those kinds of things. So this is really just meant to be a regional resource. So we are making sure that the jurisdiction's staff are having a chance to also look at this, but just wanted to highlight it. I'm really proud of it. It's something that lived in my brain for a couple years, and then we talked about it, and then Elizabeth's team's been able to get it moving, I think, really well. So we're excited about it. So those are two things for you, and if you have any need for additional, let me know. I should say that the maps are on our website, so you can download them on the MCAG website. I also wanted to say thank you and recognize the PIO team, Mary Michael and the team, as well as the county staff who worked with us on the joint ribbon cutting out in Dust Palace, both for the Lorraine Street Bridge and then, of course, for the library, the Jerry O'Banion Library and Dale Hill Hall in Dust Palace. So thank you. That was a really great event, and I know it went into a lot of coordination. So, and thank you all for those that were able to come out. I know that Director Nagy mentioned that we are also putting together ribbon cutting for the Roundabout project on June 3rd at 10 a.m. out in Gustine. So please come out for that. And That is my report, Mr. Chair.
Right, thank you, Stacy. Board member reports. Director Serrato.
Thank you, sir. Two things. Want to thank everybody for a great One Voice. Stacy, want to thank you, Mary Michael, your team, Nav, everybody else. He's looking at me like, you better remember me. Yeah, that's another story. But I want to thank everybody for a tremendous delegation visit to D.C. Director Nagy, you were a wonderful chair. It pains me a little bit to admit this, but you did a tremendous job. Just kept everything light, brought everybody together, and then kept us all, made sure we were serious when we needed to be. So I think it was a really effective visit. And it was what gets me too, or what's I think is really important, is everybody being able to kind of adopt everyone else's priorities and advocating for each other. That's when it gets kind of cool. Then we're all in it together, and we're all kind of fighting, and it really helps us come together and bond. I think we really did that well on this trip. So thank everybody for that. And then thank you too for the discussion on roads. It's a major priority all across all our jurisdictions. And we learned on our trip as well that Merced County has 1,756 miles of roads, if I'm not mistaken, and is the size of Delaware. So we're bigger than Rhode Island, and the county is the size of Delaware. So there's a lot of roads to take. But that discussion is really important. I think we all need to do better, and this is where it starts. I think in a lot of ways, and we all need to show more leadership when it comes to addressing the major needs in our community for road improvements.
Thank you, sir. Director Samra. Director Lewis.
Well, I found out about the battery box by accident at City Hall. I had this big old plastic container of batteries that I didn't know what I was going to do with, and I saw the box, and I went right home, and I filled that box up, so it had to be emptied the next day. So thank you for doing that. Hopefully we can get more information out to the community about where those boxes are located. They used to take them at Home Depot, and that went away, so I'm glad that the MCAG has taken on that task. Also, I'd like to thank staff for a wonderful trip to DC for One Voice. It was my first time since 2017, and of course the format had changed, and I think this is a better format rather than everybody having to think about all the projects and kind of jumping in and taking charge for another project that you really don't know anything about. So thank you for allowing me to go. It was a last-minute thing for Los Banos, but we had an opportunity to speak about the things that we thought were priority for our community, and I just, I was glad to be a part of that. But I didn't get a sticker on my back, so who did the stickers?
No, I think you did.
I did? Mine fell off.
Yeah, you're in there. Pull it up.
I'm in there, but I didn't see a sticker.
No, you did.
I did?
Just wouldn't see it because it was behind you.
Yeah.
Oh, it was on my shoulder?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're going to find it. Yeah, I think I was, yes, I'm pretty sure. We'll pull that up again. Michael will get it up. Oh, there it is. So go down to, I think, 5. Try to get him back with a water cup. There we go.
There you go.
Oh,
right
my
there.
goodness.
There you go.
I probably flushed it down the toilet or something.
Equal opportunity. Got everybody could. Listen, you could just leave that up.
All right.
Just leave that up.
I
Thank
use
you.
the same sticker for
Director-
everyone, so.
Yeah.
Director McDaniel.
No, I just like to thank everybody for advocating on our behalf. That it's an important trip. I know there might be some naysayers out there about it, but it's amazing what we do bring home. And if we don't bring it home this time, we bring it definitely home the next time. And it opens up a communication as we continue on to advocate throughout the whole year. And for you guys in Washington, D.C., I'm sorry you missed the Luke Bryan concert out at Castle. 20,000 people. Yeah, we've learned some lessons, and moving forward, it's even going to be better, and we're looking forward to doing something next year. Thank you.
Director Reed.
I want to thank everybody for attending our ribbon cutting, not just the directors, but also we had a lot of our citizens that showed up for the first time in a very long time, which tells us that things are going in a positive direction. And because of Director Silvera's remarks that we are in competition with the Golden Gate Bridge. I ordered lights to put on our little walking bridge that goes to Golden Gate Street. So they are, of course, solar, so it doesn't cost us anything because we have no money. And they will be installed in a few weeks. So hopefully when you come for the ribbon cutting of the East Blossom Street project, maybe they'll be on and you can see that we too have a Golden Gate Bridge. Our East Blossom Street project is slated to end the second week of August. We start school August 11th, and they want it all the way done and open. So it is moving right along and going out to bid. I did text our city manager, start billing, and he said, yay. So that's...
We'll have you sign it before we go.
Perfect.
We're ready, and they've been doing a lot of work out there. So we are just on a good upward trend, I think, in Dos Palace, and our citizens are noticing the Major V money. Because, of course, like everybody else, I think Dos Palace gets the worst. Our roads are horrible. And I say, well, you weren't here in the 80s because they were really bad then. And but they're seeing these projects being done, and I think they're grateful because they're showing up to support these things that we have. So thank you, everybody.
Director Nagy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple things, just to say ditto to Director Serrato's kudos on the Measure V trip. Everyone did a stellar job. Staff, all the speakers, everybody impressed me with their knowledge, and just want to reiterate that the work starts now. So all those cards you got when you were back there, don't be bashful about picking up the phone and calling that person and say, hey, I'm the fat guy that met you a couple of weeks ago, and hey, where are we at on this? Or I need some more information or whatever, because that's what gets you remembered. Also, we voted in Joe Oliveira as our Citizens Oversight Committee, reelected him. We couldn't get a hold of him for quite a while because he was on an extended cruise. So once he got back, we got him back on. So that's all I have.
Perfect. Thank you. Director Kale?
First, I want to say I'm glad to be back, sitting in the seat. I did miss you guys for the year and a half I was gone. Thank you, Mary Michael, and the rest of the team. The One Voice trip is always entertaining, and I always learned a lot. It's amazing how many physicians in Washington, D.C. really don't know where they're going to be in the next year or so. And it really is kind of scary for them. So, again, thank you guys all for having me here. That's it.
Council?
It's the rare time when I speak during director's comments, because since I'm not a director, but please join us at the Merced County Fair beginning on June 4th. You are all, of course, invited to the VIP reception after the flag raising on opening night, Wednesday. Starts at 5:15, and hope to see you all out there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Comment on that. I know a girl with a goat, if anybody is interested in that. She, again, will be at the Merced Fair.
All right, and my final comments are just thank all of the folks that went back on the One Voice trip and staff that puts all that together and advocating on behalf of Merced County. It's something that we can't all make, but I know that it was in good hands this year, so I want to thank you for that, and I want to ditto Director McDaniel's comments. I know there was a few naysayers out there, but I can just tell you this about the Luke Bryant concert. If you were inside there, which there was a lot of people who were, I did not find one person that was not having a great time. And it was, the naysayers tend to be the same ones that complain that there's nothing ever to do here. And then we bring something to do here. And yes, when you converge 8,000 to 9,000 cars onto one location and 20,000 people, traffic's not going to be that great. Lines are going to be a little bit long. But if you went in with a good attitude, you're going to leave with a good attitude. If you went in with a not so great attitude, you probably left with not such a great attitude. So kudos to all those involved. And I think that with anything, the first time you can prepare and plan on paper as much as you want, but until you actually introduce the human factor, those plans are just that, they're plans. And I think that lessons were learned, but overall, I think it was a huge deal. And I'll share a little story of a young lady that last minute went with a friend to the Luke Bryant concert, and this little young lady's family maybe doesn't have the resources, single parent household, never been to a concert in her life before, and her very first concert was to go see Luke Bryant in Atwater, California. She'll never forget that as long as she lives. And so I wish that the media would have took some of those stories and ran with them instead of, if it bleeds, it leads. The negative stories are the ones that get all the clickbait. So overall, could things have been a little better? Absolutely. But overall, I think really a great day for Merced County. And with that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Just as a quick reminder, roughly 5,912 AA batteries were removed from the landfill. Thank you for getting that number to us.